Hi guys, so someone has asked me to put together an unseen poetry video just to help out for literature paper 2, which is no problem at all, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. So, firstly, let's take a look at the new kind of style literature paper 2. This is essentially due to COVID. This will, as it says at the top right, this will be the structure for 2022 exams only. So this paper is going to be called the Shakespeare and Unseen Poetry paper. We'll just take a look at it. So as you can see, go down. You can see here it goes through the number of marks, which we'll have a look at now. So there's 30 marks section A with additional 4 marks available for SPAG. So that's the Macbeth question. 24 marks section B with 4 marks available for SPAG. And then there's 8 marks of question, the comparative question in section B. So section B is unseen, section A is Macbeth. So Macbeth is the first question on the paper usually. You can see, you'll be able to see here to make sure you go to the right question. You'll be given an extract. They'll tell you where the extract comes from, like what's kind of happened, and then you get a question at the bottom. So start with the moment of the play, explore how Shakespeare presents the attitudes of Macbeth and Banquo towards the supernatural, and then you'll have to refer to the rest of the play, obviously, as well as that extract. So you'll go through the paper, you'll ignore the rest of the Shakespeare questions, and you will jump straight down to section B after doing the Macbeth question. So you'll see here that it will have a question like this, where it's looking at one poem for 24 marks and 4 marks for SPAG, and then you'll have a really short 8-mark question looking at the similarities and or differences, so you can do both, looking at comparing 2 unseen poems. Okay, so what we're going to do then is we will then move on to look at the 24 markers. So the only reason there were no poems in that paper you just saw is because due to copyright, ridiculously AQA can't produce it online. The poems will be printed there, and because of that, I'm going to show an example. So this is a really lovely poem called The Border, a double sonnet, and this would be the 24 marker. This is just an example, and it'll be a question like this. So you'd read through the poem, you'll have never seen the poem before. The poems will be linked thematically. So for example, like this is say if there was one poem on borders, the next one will have something to do with borders or countries, geography, something like that. So in this one, the question will be, in The Border, a double sonnet, how does the poet present the nature of geographic borders? So that means like tell me some adjectives about the geographic borders. How are they being presented when it says present the nature of them? Like, what if I look at the nature of someone, are they a good person, bad person, aggressive person, calm person, like the nature of them? So what I'm going to do is going to come up with 3 central ideas. You can see on the right hand side, I've got central idea 1. My idea is that, so this is my first, well, I'll have a mini introduction. It's over 20 marks, so I should do a mini introduction just where I'll use the 3 adjectives. So I'll say that the borders are divisive, they cause friction, they're dangerous, and they're pointless. Then each of my central ideas is a different paragraph. So my central idea 1 is that borders are divisive and they cause friction. My main quote for that paragraph will be, the border is a handshake that becomes a squeezing context. I'll then go in what's called pepper in, so I'll like drop in embedded quotes, some other shorter quotes as well, but that will be my kind of main quote, and then I'll put other quotes around it as well. My central idea number 2 is that borders are dangerous. The border is the blood clot in the river's vein. So that would that one I'd have a look at the noun plot, for example. And then my central idea 3 that borders are pointless, and it's the opening of the poem. The border is a line that birds cannot see. Now I can also look at structural techniques. I want to look at poetic techniques. Any kind of technique is open to you here. So you can do, I mean, for example, there is an non-drama, but for example, if there was non-drama where it runs from one line to the next, you can look at that. There's a caesura, for example, in the border. The word border sounds like order, but in this place they do not rhyme. I might look at the caesura there and think about how it's quite divisive and how the caesura kind of represents that. Things like extended metaphors are fantastic to have a look at in poetry. There's a repeated focus here on borders, obviously, and generally it's obviously very negative. So that's what I'm going to do for the 24 marker. It's just a normal kind of essay. It's just 6 marks shorter than your typical like Macbeth. Sorry, if you minus away, obviously, with the, if we ignore the spag, the AO4 for now, it would be 6 marks less than Macbeth. So I like to think of those 6 marks as being like more towards like obviously AO3 historical context. So you would write roughly the same amount, you just wouldn't do any context because it's unseen. Like you can't know the context on a poem that's on something that's unseen. It's the same as language. Okay, unseen poetry comparison then. If you can find similarities and differences in everyday life, you'll be able to do it in poetry. If you struggle with working out what the poems mean, to focus on the specific words and how they're displayed on the page. So I'm going to focus on looking at this high five technique that I've put together. It's just kind of a mental thing that you can think through as you're looking at poetry comparison. Please mind, it's only 8 marks, so it's like a normal language kind of question. Let's say I was looking at 2 poems. I'm not going to show you the other poem because I'm not going to focus on that for the comparison. But if I was going to, there's another poem called Every Day We Get More Illegal, which is about the system of borders. So it would say, how does a poet in the border double sonnet and one other poem, Every Day We Get More Illegal, present their feelings towards the system of borders? Okay, just ignore that it says 30 marks there. This is from when I did it at Key Stage 3, but it's an 8-mark question. So I would break it down into A, B, C, D, E on my high five on my hand. So I would think that each of my fingers and my thumb represents a different letter, as you can see on the image there. So A, I would be thinking about attitudes and tone. What are the poet's attitudes towards the topic within the question? B, break down the language and language techniques used in response to the question. Which words will help your argument? C, consider structure. So how do they look on the page? Are they similar or different? Are they regular or irregular structure? So the border is a double sonnet, which is quite unusual. So it's 2 sonnets put together, 2 lots of 14-line poems put together. So it makes an irregular structure out of what is a regular structure, so the sonnet, by making it a double sonnet. D, discuss cadence. If you're looking for a 7+, what's the flow of the poems? Think about rap. Our flow through is very usually very kind of fast. Are we disrupted by full stops? Are there caesuras there? Is it disjointed? What does that tell us? That's like kind of top level stuff, cadences. And then end with a strong conclusion. What's the main similarity and what's the main difference between the 2 poems? To show evaluative skills there. These are the sentence starters you want to use. So if you want to, have a go at one of these in 2 poems I'll show you shortly, you can press pause on this and just get the sentence starters. Essentially, it's bolt. So both poems, one poet, language used, this suggests, but the other poem, language used, this suggests. And then finally, these are just some key questions to consider when comparing the poetry. What tense are they written in, past or present? Can you think of the major similarities or differences? What's the narrative style? Is it first, second, or third person? Who were they directed towards? Is the poem largely positive or negative? That's a good one if you're struggling to get to the grade 5. Think about positive and negative words, positive and negative kind of tone. What techniques can you spot, and what are the writer's intentions? So that bottom right one's really important. Why did the writer bother to write this? Okay. And that's just another kind of list that basically just summarises what you've just seen. So we'll carry on going through. Here's 2 poems then. If you want to have a go at comparing these, you can do. So there's My Papa's Waltz and Those Winter Sundays, and both are poems about fathers and relationships with fathers. If you want to have a go, attempt this, and then you do the questions in the middle. And this will be the question in both, and this is the 8-mark question. In both My Papa's Waltz and Those Winter Sundays, the speakers describe complex relationships with fathers. What are the similarities and or differences between the ways the poets present these relationships? So essentially, if you want to have a go at section B, what you're going to do is you'll go back, rewind this video, go back and have a look at the border one, and then go and do that 24 marker, and then go and have a go at this 8-mark one. Okay, if you have any questions, just drop me an email. If you want to mark this, just drop me an email. But yeah, hopefully that has been quite helpful to you. Okay, thank you.